people kill black people, they don't come out and do this crap. The only time they do this crap is when a white person touches them. Yeah, the rest is it's wrong for a white cop to kill a black person, that's for sure. But if it matters, it should matter at all times.
So what are you fighting for? What are you fighting for? You're not here to fight injustice. You're here to cause drama.
Will be stop violence. It's not about blacks.
Okay, since you're so
blacks are oppressed. I am black. I'm not oppressed. I am free.
That's good for you. That's an individual person. What about a systemic issue?
I do what I want. You have the skills. This is a country where you have the skills. You want to do what you want. You do it. Okay. Stop forcing on people to accept that they're oppressed. They are not. I am not oppressed. I am black. Stop making people accept that they're oppressed. You're forcing a rhetoric into your minds, which is not true. Okay. Violence is wrong. Period. It's not about blacks. Okay. The blacks kill blacks in black neighborhoods every single day. I've never seen a Black Lives Matter in those neighborhoods.
Why don't you start?
I'm not carrying anything saying Black Lives Matter. I know I matter.
Oh, yeah. We starting this Black History Month real controversial. Tonight, I figure since, Black history is usually framed as one long documentary of change, struggle, and permanent victimhood, we mix it up a little bit. Show you something different. A black woman saying that she's not oppressed. Crazy concept, huh? Because apparently in 2026, the most rebellious thing a black person can say is, I am free. And that's the problem. The Democrat machine, it survives on one emotional currency. That's oppression as identity. Not injustice, not reform, not progress. Identity. The second someone steps outside of that script, they become the villain. In that clip, that wasn't just a viral moment at the time. That was a real crack in the foundation, because once one person says it out loud, us others, black, we're gonna start asking some questions. Which brings us to the next domino.
One thing that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, it was when I started looking into the funds of BLM. Because when I was an activist, I remember marching and asking people like, why is it that we're having to pay for some of these supplies? Why haven't I heard anything about where this money is going? You even started seeing Breonna Taylor's mother speaking out about how there was no financial support for her. And every time I would ask those questions, people would tell me that like I had lost the plot or that I needed to mind my business and stay in my lane. So then when I started doing more research and realizing things like BLM had raised $100 million in 1 year, I was mortified, because I'm a firm believer in you trace the money and you see the priorities. And I started seeing that BLM was taking their money through Act Blue and putting it towards progressive causes and to politicians. And these politicians were doing absolutely nothing in the black community. It wasn't going towards police reform or anything of the sort. So when I realized how fraudulent that was, it was like this domino effect of me realizing, BLM, it's not just a scam of a movement, it's a scam as an organization, and the left is 100% a part.
Right. Domino effect, right? That's the word. It starts with, I'm not oppressed. Then it turns into, wait, where did all that money go? Then it becomes, hold up. What are these politicians actually done? What have they actually accomplished? This wasn't some right-wing plant, right? Obviously, we know where he stands, but I'm talking about in terms of where he was at that place. This was a former progressive asking basic financial questions. You raised nearly $100 million. Where did it go? That's all I'm saying. Not police reform, not in black communities, not to victims' families. No. But if you question it, you're co-opted. You're brainwashed. A traitor. See, this is where people start snapping. Not because they suddenly love Trump, but because they hate being lied to. And that snap is happening in real time.
These Democrats don't make sense. I've only ever been a Democrat. Okay? I've only ever been a Democrat, but at some point, my prefrontal cortex completed its development. I lived enough life. I made enough observations. I had enough lived experience. And I've experienced the government and its systems enough to know that things around here are not making sense. We are allowed to ask questions. We are encouraged to push back. That is how progress of humanity actually works. Y'all think progress is them making up terms, names, conditions, causes. They just make them up out of thin air and then tell you that they're working toward that made up ass cause, raising money toward that made up cause, convincing you to believe in that made up cause, literally hypnotizing you to take on an understanding of something that does not exist. They made it up. And then when everybody starts to walk around with this belief in this made up concept, they call that progress. But hunger is not a made up concept. Hunger is worldwide. Hunger has existed for quite some time, and we're not actually doing anything to satisfy or people's hunger. Homelessness is not a made up concept. Homeless has been around for quite some time. We can see it. We can see homelessness. Those of us who've experienced homelessness know that it's real, but we're not doing anything to progress putting people in homes, making sure people have roofs over their heads. I can literally go on and on with these examples. But my point is, the people on the left are the same ones who are screaming and crying about how there's so much wrong with humanity, and therefore you need to change your language, because it's all about language. You need to change your language because there's so much wrong with humanity, and you need to funnel money toward these very specific causes because there's so much wrong with humanity. But they don't believe that the government is perpetuating any of the issues of humanity. So they're fighting to maintain the government the same way it is. They might say that there's racism in the school system, maybe, and therefore we need DEI, but they won't say that the Department of Education itself is rooted in problematic ideologies. What kind of sense does that make? They'll say they're arguing for women's rights, but at the same time, they're fighting to remove the delineations between biological women and biological men so that biological women can receive the medical studies and then services that we need because we have biological differences from biological men. They promote gender dysphoria, they promote sexual perversion, and then at the same time ignore the fact that all of these children are being exploited and trafficked, and will even argue on behalf of sex work being normalized and legal and regulated, but don't have the capacity to identify how this world is perverting our children and the rest of us. It just makes entirely no sense, and I'm tired of seeing Jasmine Crockett and Mrs. Potato Head and Elon Omar, who done married her brother or whatever, came over here from wherever she came from as a multimillionaire. I'm tired of seeing them doing all of this hollering and hooting in the cameras. It's annoying and it's embarrassing. They don't even have the capacity to just articulate intelligent points. It's all emotional manipulation. And there are those of us who are no longer able to be emotionally manipulated. We have healed. We are growing. We have evolved. We have matured. We don't operate in emotional manipulation. We are intellectual individuals, and we make the decisions based on what's best for us and the future of this world.
There it is. You can hear it in her voice. She's not screaming. She's not arguing, not combative. She's just tired. She's realizing the left doesn't allow questions. They want you on mute. And when a political movement can't survive questions, it's no longer a movement. That's quite literally a cult, what they like to call us over here on this side, right? Now, she said something very, very powerful that I want to point out. They invent problems so they can sell solutions. That's a shirt right there, man. That's the formula, though. Keep you emotional, keep you outraged, keep you distracted. Because if you calm down for 2 seconds, just for 2 seconds, and evaluate the results, the entire narrative, it just collapses for them. But speaking of narratives collapsing, let's talk about freedom.
So y'all thought they was playing when they said when Trump got in the White House, we was going to lose our rights and we was going to lose freedoms? Do you get it now? Do you really see it now? Because indeed, since Trump has been in that White House, we have lost a lot of freedoms. Let me explain. We have lost the freedom to choose. We cannot choose what politicians we want to like anymore since Trump been in that White House. Because if you don't choose the Democratic Party, they're going to make your life a little. Okay? We can't choose what we want to say on the internet. We're losing our freedom of speech. Because if you say the wrong thing against the Democratic Party, if you say the wrong thing and agree with the Trump administration, they're going to make your life a living. These women that are losing their right to vote, holy shit, do you know they never had that right to begin with because they're not United States citizens? They didn't have the right to vote to begin with, yet they were voting in these elections, and they are now going to lose that right because it wasn't theirs to begin with. Let's stay there. Our children are losing the right to choose not to protest against ICE because of the Democratic Party and the teachers forcing them to do it, because if they don't go out there and do it with their buddies and with the rest of the school, they're being bullied, they're being talked about, they're being jumped on. These kids are being beat up by classmates for not wanting to go outside in the fucking cold and protest. So they were absolutely correct when they said, when Donald Trump got in the White House, we were going to lose rights and freedoms. But what they didn't tell you was those rights and freedoms were going to be taken away from you by the Democratic Party, because that's always been who they were. They take away the things from you that they feel like they gave you because you don't deserve it. They're not yours to have because they gave it to you so they can take it away. And that's how they truly feel, and that's how they truly believe. I lost so... it was them. It was them all.
Yeah, this one triggered some people for sure. They said Trump would take your freedoms away, and they were right. They were actually right, except the freedoms being listed were what exactly? Voting without verification, open border chaos, no enforcement consequences. I'm just saying, you see how freedom gets twisted, because to some Democrats, freedom means lack of accountability. We don't do that here. We don't do lack of accountability, because to working class Americans, freedom means safety. It means fairness. Freedom means laws that actually apply. And here's the part they didn't expect. When enforcement hits, when policies tighten, when standards come back, some of the loudest beneficiaries aren't who they thought. Don't believe me? Watch this.
Hey, people are waking up.
Y'all, I'm a truck driver, right? Let me tell you the effects of Donald Trump. This company called me begging me to work for them because they couldn't find drivers anymore. Why couldn't they find drivers? Because Donald Trump instituted that you must speak English in order to hold a CDL.
Yep.
That means people who are natural born Americans, people who have been here for centuries, who built the country. Now we get opportunities that all these foreigners would get. Say what you want to about Trump. I'm not saying he's not racist, but what he's doing positively affects me. Now the jobs that were going to illegal immigrants, that they were working for pennies on the dollar, now it goes to a natural born full-blooded American.
Hey, people
Yes,
are
they
waking
are.
up.
I love seeing us wake up, man. It's so cool. But did y'all catch that line? He's saying, I'm not saying he's not racist, but this policy is helping me. Now, I don't believe he's racist, but that's what the media never wants you to hear because it complicates the script. When enforcement of English proficiency rules suddenly means more job offers, better pay, more leverage, that doesn't fit the narrative of Trump hurts minorities. It doesn't mean you have to worship the man, but it does mean reality gets messy. And messy reality is killing clean Democrat slogans, I'll tell you that. Which brings us to the big picture.
Notice something? Democrats aren't really talking about their accomplishments. Seriously, listen closely. What do you hear? Trump bad? Trump scary? Trump is a dictator? Democracy is ending. That's the entire pitch. But let's rewind for a second. Trump was already president, and somehow the country didn't collapse. The military didn't take over. He didn't cancel elections. He didn't stay forever. He left office peacefully, like every other president. For a lot of Americans, things actually got better. Yet the left keeps fear-mongering as if this is brand new, like we haven't already lived through it, like facts don't exist. So instead of fear, let's talk record. So here's what's actually happened under Trump's administration thus far. We had a strong economy, record low unemployment, historic lows for Black and Hispanic unemployment, gas prices were lower, America became energy independent, oil, gas, and drilling were unleashed, the Biden EV mandate were scrapped, thankfully, Americans weren't forced into electric cars, the border was enforced, catch and release ended, illegal crossings dropped, fentanyl seizures increased, drug trafficking was hit harder, cartels were labeled foreign terrorist organizations, lost and trafficked children were recovered, Blake and Riley Act was signed to detain violent offenders, women were protected, executive orders protected women's sports, protected private spaces like bathrooms, jobs came back to America. China was pressured on trade, NATO allies paid their fair share, no new wars, ISIS lost its territory, historic peace deals like the Abraham Accords happened, free speech protections were restored. DEI mandates were rolled back, government waste was cut, and when hurricanes like North Carolina hit, residents were housed and supported. Venezuelans celebrated worldwide after Maduro's capture. This list only scratches the surface. Peace deals between Rwanda and DRC, normalization agreements across the Middle East, and the list goes on. You don't have to like Trump. That's not the point. But pretending he did nothing while serving up nothing but fear only highlights how weak the argument really is.
Energy, border, jobs, foreign policy. Agree or disagree with the tone, but notice something. One side is listing outcomes, the other side is listing feelings. And by disagree with the tone, you know, when you say things calmly to somebody on the left or a Democrat, being calm is seen as arrogance. But yeah, again, one side is listing outcomes, the other is just listing their feelings out there. Trump bad, doesn't feed family. Trump is racist, doesn't fix schools. Systemic oppression, doesn't explain rising small business numbers. Doesn't. And that's why black Democrats are fleeing fast. Not because they suddenly turned overnight, but because they got tired of being managed emotionally. They did. I'm saying they like it ain't me. We. But you know that snap isn't even loud. It's subtle. It's a domino. It's a question. It's a paycheck increase. If someone is saying I'm not oppressed, I am free, offends you, like come on, it's 2026. How is thinking for yourself a problem? The Trump era just isn't back. It's shifting the conversation. That's what I'm saying. And this is the direction things are heading. We're about to see the biggest political realignment in modern history. Now I want y'all to drop the word domino in the comments if you made it to the end of the video. Not even for the algorithm, for your boy. Other than that, what do I got to say about my life? Hope you had a great Valentine's Day. I enjoy mine. I got impaired. I was on that thing tipsy. Responsibly, though, of course. Other than that, yeah, just spread us some love. I don't know what else to talk about tonight. Y'all be safe. Go check on somebody today. You're going to literally be saving their life. Peace.